Hit the whoa 3 times, y'all. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Unit 4, Earth Systems Review. Let's start off with plate tectonics. Number 1, what are the 4 layers of the Earth? Describe the composition of each layer. So let's start from within. And I'm going to write it over here. And I'm labeling it A, B, C, and all that stuff. So A, starting from the inside, we have the inner core. And the inner core is the innermost layer, composed of mostly iron and nickel. It is extremely dense. Then we have the outer core. So this part of the core is also made of iron and nickel, but in liquid form. The reason why the inner core is very, very dense is because of the immense pressure. Okay, so we have C, the mantle. So the mantle is the thickest layer of the Earth, which is above the core, containing magma. Nod to Austin Powers there. And then another point is that it contains the asthenosphere, which is the outer part of the mantle, composed of semi-molten ductile rock. And then we have the crust. The crust is extremely thin. Cold and brittle compared to what lies below. The crust is made of relatively light elements, especially silica, aluminum, and oxygen. Another name for it would be the lithosphere. Number 2, compare and contrast continental and oceanic crust. So I'm going to write it right here. It is, it both float on top of the mantle. Okay. Continental crust. I'm just going to write down continental is less dense. And then we have or let's just say that is less dense than oceanic crust. Compare a divergent with a convergent plate boundary. So divergent, y'all. I'm gonna write it right here. Divergent are where plates pull away from each other, forming mild earthquakes and volcanoes as magma comes to the surface. And then I'm going to write over here, even though it's under 4, it's truly under 3. It is the convergent. So convergent boundaries are where two plates are pushing into each other. And based on their density, y'all, different things occur. So if one plate is more dense than the other, the less dense plate gets subducted under the more dense plate. But if they're both very low density plates, they form mountains like the Himalayas. And then number 4, why are plates moving? Draw a diagram. So the diagram will be very small because I'm running out of room here, but we have number 4 in the space. So plates on or at our planet's surface move because of the intense heat in the Earth's core. So let's write that down. Move because of the intense heat in the Earth's core. That cause molten rock in the mantle to move. It moves in a convection cell. Warm materials rises, and then we have cool sinks. And the picture for number 4, I'm going to draw it right here. We have the core, and then the mantle, and within the mantle we have those convection currents. So hot rise and then cool sinks. And that's what causes the plates to move. Those plates are floating on top, so again, that's what causes the crust to move. Number 5, why do oceanic plates dive underneath continental plates when they collide? What is this process called, and what is created? So we have oceanic plates that are more dense than continental plates causes them to dive underneath when they collide. This is called a convergent boundary, specifically subduction. Is usually created in uplift of land resulting in mountain ranges. What is a mid-oceanic ridge? Where is it formed? Give an example of one. So the mid-Atlantic ridge is simply when sea floor spreads at a great depth in the ocean. From a divergent plate boundary. So the example would be the mid-Atlantic ridge. How are mountains formed? So, mountains are made at convergent plate boundaries where two plates collide. Number 8. What two plates are grinded together to form the San Andreas Fault in California? What type of plate boundary exists here? So, the Pacific plate and the North American plate. This is a transform plate boundary. How are island arcs and trenches made? An island arc is a chain or group of islands that forms from volcanic activity along a subduction zone. Subduction occurs when oceanic lithosphere sinks underneath continental or another oceanic lithosphere. Trenches are formed by subduction. A geological process in which two or more plates converge and the older, denser plate is pushed beneath the lighter plate and deep into the mantle, causing sea floor spreading. Oh, no, sorry. Causing the seafloor and outermost crust to bend and form a steep V-shaped depression. What is soil made of? How is it made? So, soil is made of a mixture of organic matter, minerals, I'm going to write above here, minerals, gases, liquids, and organisms that together support life. I'm going to write underneath the second part of it, how is it made? It's formed from physical and chemical weathering of rocks. Identify what can be found in each horizon. So for the O horizon, it is the organic matter in various stages of decomposition. A would be a zone of underlying organic material mixed with underlying mineral materials. B, zone of accumulation of metals and nutrients. C would be the least weathered portion of soil, very similar to the parent material. And then R is basically the layer of unweathered or partially weathered bedrock. Describe 4 techniques that keep soil in place. So we have contour plowing. And then contour plowing is plowing grooves into the desired farmland, then planting the crop furrow in the groove and following the contours. We have the windbreaks, rows of tall trees are used, indents, patterns around the farmland, and prevent wind erosion. No-till is a method of growing crops year-round without changing the topography of the soil by tilling or contouring. And then cover crops. Rotated with cash crops in order to blanket the soil all year round and produce green manure that replenishes nitrogen and other critical nutrients. 13. Arrange the following particles in order of smallest to largest: clay, sand, and silt. So clay, silt, then sand. 14. Compare porosity to permeability. Porosity measure of how much of a rock is open space, and then permeability is a measure of the ease with which fluid can move through a porous rock. So use the axes to the right for the following. Draw a line representing the temperature as you increase in altitude through the atmosphere. Label each layer of the atmosphere and identify where the greenhouse effect occurs and the ozone layer is situated. So we have the curve here, the line approximating the values. Slight goes up. Halfway here, it goes up. Then it gets close to here, it goes up. And then exponentially, temperature goes haywire out. Okay, so the layers now. I'm going to draw it in a different color. We have this separation, and this would be the troposphere. Then at the other end, this middle area is the stratosphere. And we have another layer here, and this is the mesosphere. And the last one, y'all, the thermosphere. Okay, so with that said, the ozone layer is situated in the stratosphere, y'all. So, ozone layer. Greenhouse effect occurs within the troposphere itself. Okay, number 16. List causes of an urban heat island. So causes, y'all, change in surfaces of urban areas, waste heat, and then population density. More people, more body heat there. 17. How is wind created? So, it is produced by the uneven heating of the Earth's surface by the sun. Number 18. How does wind control ocean currents? So I'm going to write 18 right here for more room for my answer. These surface currents are set in motion by the wind, which drags on the surface of the water as it blows. The winds pull surface water with them, creating currents. Number 19. What is the Coriolis effect? How does this affect wind and water movement on Earth? So, it is the result of Earth's rotation on weather patterns and ocean currents. The Coriolis effect makes storms swirl clockwise in the southern hemisphere and counter clockwise. In the northern hemisphere. Explain what a watershed is and why it is significant. So I'm going to be answering it here. 20. Watersheds are important because the surface water features and storm water runoffs within a watershed ultimately drains to other bodies of water. It is essential to consider these downstream impacts when developing and implementing water quality protection and restoration actions. So next we're going to identify what A, B, C, and D are in the watershed diagram. So I'm going to label it within it, y'all. So A is the waterfall. B is the riparian zone. C would be the ridge. And D is the estuary. Why do we have seasons? So it's simply due to the tilt of the Earth's axis and the rotation around the sun. 23. How does solar radiation differ in the northern hemisphere, winter and summer? So when the north pole of Earth is tilted toward the sun, we in the northern hemisphere receive more sunlight. And that word is sunlight, y'all. Apologize. Sunlight. And it's summer. 24. Let's continue with that. We didn't finish. I'm going to answer it part 2 right here. When it is tilted away from the sun, it is winter in the northern hemisphere. Okay, 24. What are the equinoxes? When day and night are equal length. So, when So reading climatograms. So we have number 25. A climatogram of Washington, D.C. is presented to the right. What does a climatogram show? So it shows the mean temperature. Mean is just the average temperature. And average rainfall over the course of a year. Number 26. A. In which month do we see the highest temperature? So this would be July. We can determine this by looking at the line graph. In which month do we see the highest precipitation amounts? So this one would be in May. And we looked at the bar graph. 27. The box to the right contains a crude depiction of a mountain. Use it to sketch and label the essential attributes of a rain shadow. Include labels for the direction of the prevailing winds and nearest ocean. So I'm going to be labeling it here, y'all. I'm not a big artist, but I'm going to try my best. So we're going to label the sea level. Okay. Made it too big there. I'm going to have land here. So this is the sea level. We have the prevailing winds. And this is called the windward side. Okay, and then we have clouds with rain. And then on the other side, we have the leeward side. So the rain shadow. Dun dun dun. The acronym ENSO refers to El Nino, Southern Oscillation, which occurs in the Pacific Ocean. Explain what an El Nino event is and why it is significant. What are the effects of an El Nino event? So I'm gonna answer it down here, y'all. So El Nino is a climate pattern that describes the unusual warming of surface waters in the eastern equatorial Pacific Ocean. This has negative impacts off the coast of South America because it stops the upwelling of the cool, nutrient-rich water, which decreases the amount of fish available for catch. This also can increase storm systems in South America. El Niño can also lead to unusually high temperatures and reduced rainfall in Australia. And then we have 30. Compare El Niño to La Niña. So, El Niño, El Niño is the warming of surface water, while La Niña is the cooling of surface water. Okay. Define the term ecological footprint. So I'm going to write it right here. The impact of human activities measured in terms of the area of biological productivity or productive land, apologies, and water required to produce the goods consumed and to assimilate the waste generated. So 32, how does an ecological footprint of a developed country compare to a developing country, and why? So higher income, more developed countries generally have a higher footprint than poorer, less developed countries. This is mostly due to the higher energy and food demands of developed countries. Okay, so that is it for the day. Have a good one, y'all.